So let me ask you something uncomfortable. How many times have you said, I learned my lesson, and then did the exact same thing again 6 months later? Same decision, same outcome, same regret. At that point, it's no longer a mistake. It's a system you're running unconsciously. We all fail. That is a certainty. But the tragedy isn't the failure itself, it's that most people move on emotionally without changing anything structurally. Stay with me, because in a few minutes, I'm going to share the post-mortem protocol, a 3-minute habit used by elite performers to ensure that once a mistake happens, it is physically impossible for it to happen the same way twice. 1. The anatomy of a loop. Let's remove the fantasy first. Every successful person you admire has failed, repeatedly. They've made wrong decisions, they trusted the wrong people, they ignored signals they should have taken seriously. Nobody can avoid making mistakes. The point is how you react to them. We like to think of progress as a straight line, an upward trajectory of constant improvement, but most of us find ourselves running in the same circle, facing the same financial hurdles, the same fitness plateaus, and the same creative blocks year after year. When we fail, our brain's first instinct isn't to learn, it's to survive the discomfort. The moment you make a mistake, your brain experiences a spike in cortisol, the stress hormone. To lower that stress, you make a promise. I'll never do that again. That promise feels like progress, but it's actually a sedative. It calms the ego without changing the environment. This is what I call the emotional loop. You feel the burn, you promise change, and then as the memory of the pain dims, you return to your default settings. If you're starting to see your own loops clearly now, hit the like button. It helps this video find others who are tired of running in circles. To break the loop, we have to stop looking at the failure and start looking at the trigger that led to it. 2. First mistake is an event. The second is a choice. Let's look at a real-world example. Meet David. David is an aspiring creator with a high-pressure day job. He wants to build a brand, write a book, and achieve financial freedom. But every night at 7 p.m., the same system takes over. He sits at his desk, opens his laptop, and instead of writing, he prepares to write. He checks emails, he reorganizes the digital folders. 2 hours later, he's exhausted. Nothing is created, and he goes to bed with that familiar weight of recycled regret in his chest. David tells himself he just needs more discipline, but discipline isn't David's problem. Context switching is. David's mistake was hard to avoid, but repeating it for 6 months is a choice to keep his work and creative systems in the same room. To break the loop, David needs to physically leave his house or move to a specific creative corner where his brain has no day job memories. He needs to change the geography of his mind to make the mistake of procrastination harder to commit. And there's Sarah. Sarah is a high achiever with great aspirations to succeed, but she makes a repeating mistake. Her kind nature prevents her to focus. She says yes way too often. A friend calls late at night to chat. A colleague asks for a quick favor right when she's supposed to be focused. Sarah accepts it every time. By 11 a.m., her workout is skipped, her deep work is ruined, and she's frustrated with herself. She promises, next time I'll be firmer. But Sarah is ignoring the social system. She has trained her entire network to rely on her lack of boundaries. Sarah's mistake is fixable because she can choose to automate her boundaries. Instead of relying on willpower to say no, she can set her phone to Do Not Disturb automatically. She can set an email autoresponder. By taking the decision out of the moment, she ensures the mistake can't repeat. If you've ever faced similar situations, leave a comment and let us know what worked for you. We are building a community of people who prefer engineering over hoping. 3. The ego's narrative of exception. Why is it so hard to admit the system is broken? Because your ego is a world-class defense attorney. When we repeat a mistake, the ego immediately starts building what psychologists call a narrative of exception. It says, well, I only overspent because it was a special occasion, or I only skipped the gym because I was tired. By making the mistake about the circumstance rather than the system, we give ourselves a get-out-of-jail-free card.
We convince ourselves that this time didn't count. But here's the cold truth. In the world of high performance, everything counts. Every time you repeat a mistake and make an excuse for it, you are training your brain to ignore reality. You are reinforcing the system of failure. To break free, you must stop accepting your own excuses and start looking at your life with the cold objectivity of an engineer. Let's see how that works. 4. Structural change versus emotional change. There is a massive difference between feeling sorry and being different. Emotional change is temporary. It involves apologies and grand gestures, but emotional change is a temporary state of mind. Structural change, on the other hand, is quiet. It's boring. It's the act of moving your phone to a different room. Think of your life like a riverbed. Your habits are the grooves worn into the earth. If you want the water to flow in a new direction, you don't stand in the river and yell at the water to turn left. You grab a shovel and you dig a new channel. Most people are yelling at the water. I want you to start digging. This shift from "why am I like this" to "how can I change the path" is the moment you stop being a passenger and start being the architect of your own progress. 5. The post-mortem protocol. As I promised, here is the tool to ensure your mistakes remain optional: the post-mortem protocol. In high-stakes industries, when a mistake happens, they perform a post-mortem to find the single point of failure. The next time you slip up, stop and ask these 3 questions. The trigger audit. What was the event 0? If you broke your diet at 9 p.m., the mistake happened at 6 p.m. when you skipped dinner. Find the first domino. The friction factor. How could I have made this mistake harder to commit? What physical obstacle can I put between me and this bad habit? The if-then architecture. Replace "I'll try" with a command. If I feel the urge to procrastinate, then I will stand up and walk away from my desk. 6. The reflection. There is an old saying, "A wise man learns from his mistakes, but a genius learns from the mistakes of others." The opposite is also true. You can learn from others' best practices. The persons you secretly admire have already built these systems I'm going to tell you about. Take a look at your life right now. Not the life you wish you had, but the one you are actually living. If you see patterns of regret, don't look at them as failures of character. Look at them as failures of design. You have a choice today. You can keep running the same script, hoping for a different ending, or you can acknowledge that your current system is perfectly designed to give you the results you're currently getting. If you don't like the results, change the system. If you find the idea appealing, subscribe for more. This channel isn't about motivation, it's about clarity, responsibility, and growth that compounds. Real growth isn't about becoming a person who never fails. That person doesn't exist. Real growth is becoming a person who is too smart to fail the same way twice. Identify one recycled regret, that one thing you keep doing despite knowing it's wrong. Don't try to willpower it away. Instead, find one structural change that makes that mistake 10% harder to repeat. Remember, mistakes are inevitable. Repeating them is optional. Stop being a victim of your past and start being the architect of your future. And I'll see you in the next one.